Record. Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Mr. Lowell Joseph Gallen, founder of the Root and Branch Association Limited, established in the United States of God of Israel, bless America, in New York State in 1981, now celebrating our 42nd year. Today is Wednesday, March 15th, 2023 in the Gregorian calendar, and it is the 23rd day of the 12th Israelite Hebrew month of Adar in the Hebrew Israelite calendar, year 5783. Welcome to episode 12 of our monthly seminar entitled Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles and Sage, co-chaired by Mrs. Rivkah Asoulin of the Galilee, Israel, Mrs. Gilla Weiss of Boca Raton, Florida, and Mrs. Chava Dagan of the Northern Negev in Israel. It's having a little connection problems, but she'll be with us soon. And now, without further ado, before I do that, I'm going to hand over the mic to Rivkah, Gilla, and Chava when she gets here. Instead of me playing my clip of Yiddish Shamama, which I like to do, Rivkah has something to show you. And let me do my rainmaking spiel. That's my new spiel. I want you all, please, our viewers and listeners, to support the work of Gilla, Rivkah, and Chava. The ways in which you can do that, you'll see that on their websites, which will be linked below. With Chava, I know one of the things you can do is buy honey that she produces on the farm. They each have something very special that is for sale and well worth supporting. As for myself, please support yours truly's work to build our Hebrew Bible-based Fifth Israelite Monarchy broadcasting network from Jerusalem, Israel, to honor the God-land Torah and people of Israel and all humanity. And if you want to know what is he talking about, the Fifth Israelite Monarchy, you might want to do something you haven't done before. It's called read the Tanakh, Torah, Prophets, Writings. Go to the book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 44. Read in English, Hebrew, the commentaries, and then you will know what I'm talking about with the Fifth Israelite Monarchy. And now, without further ado, I'm going to hand over the mic to our hostesses. Ladies, it's all yours, and Chava's coming in.
Okay. Hello and welcome. Chava's having some technical difficulties, as Lil Ari just said, so we might be dealing with that a bit. I would like to begin with doing a screen share and playing a little clip. It's 2 minutes and 45 seconds long, but I think it really introduces the topic that we'll be discussing today quite well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy me try to figure out how to quickly and seamlessly screen share in just a minute. Beautiful. Hang on. Okay. There's always some kind of difficulty. Let me try it this way. Technical difficulties.
But what you have to do is when you press share screen, there's a little box on the lower left called Activate Sound. If you don't do that, then I've had that problem until I learned how to use it. We won't be able to hear what the video is saying. So you might want to go back.
All right, let me try it again.
And try it again. When I started using share screen, I regularly had this problem until I remembered to click on the box.
Okay.
Then it should work.
To hear it. When I was 16, I went into what I thought was going to be a normal day at biology class. And when I walked in, all the desks were arranged in a circle in the middle of the room. And the instructor, who had always been a really amazing, loving, kind instructor, was super militant, super scary, and just looked at us and said, "Sit down, shut up. You are not allowed to move, to speak at all, and anyone who does will immediately fail my class." And we were all stunned. I get like just thinking about it, because I was a straight A student and grades were really important to me, and I was just like terrified. So we're all sitting there silently, nervous out of our minds. And in the middle of this circle that we were all sitting in, there was one desk. And on this desk was a bowl with a goldfish in it. And he looked at us and he took the goldfish and he put it on the desk and he walked out and he shut the door. And we all just looked at each other, just like, what do we do? You know, like, obviously it violated like everything inside of me to like watch this fish die. And also, I heard the instruction: if you speak, if you get up, if you move, you will automatically fail the class. And so we all sat there looking to each other to do something because we didn't want it to be us. And what was a very painful, it felt like an eternity, it was probably like 2.5 minutes later, Hannah B, got up and said, "Fuck this," and took the goldfish and put it back in the bowl. And when she did that, he came out and he looked at all of us and he said, "Look what the world has done to you. You've betrayed yourself. For what?" And I think about that lesson all the time because I learned in that moment that I am never going to be that person ever again. That when I see something that is wrong, even if it's just me, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do what's right. And I've done that over and over again in my life in very scary situations. But I'm sad for people who haven't learned that lesson, because there are so many things that are wrong that if you're too scared to make a difference, you won't make right.
Okay. So I hope everyone could hear the audio. Okay on that. So today we're going to talk about the Hannah B. Who was Hannah B? I didn't even catch the name the first time, but my colleagues and dear friends Gilla and Chava did right away when I showed them this video and we started to talk about it. Hannah B was the girl who got up. She was the girl who put the fish back into the water. She was a hero. We think that heroes wear suits, wear capes, wear masks. We just had the holiday of Purim. And the kids often don't dress up as like their mom, their grandmother. However, many Jewish kids do have a grandmother, or now I guess a great grandmother, or grandfather, that were heroes in World War II, in the Shoah, in the Holocaust, that were heroes in all sorts of unsung ways. And they didn't wear capes and they don't have like special bat powers. They can't shoot webs out from their fingers. But those are the true heroes, and those are the heroes that we are meant to be. And this is in our spiritual DNA. We all can be our favorite superhero, our favorite hero. Every single one of us. There's no excuse. We all have the potential on this earth to be that. So let's think about the people in the room who were sitting around in a circle watching a fish dying, or they thought dying. She had a little note that that fish could survive 15 minutes out of the water, so that no fishes were harmed in this social experiment by her biology teacher. However, the kids didn't know that, and they sat there watching this fish flop around, gasping for air, and knowing that they weren't going to get a good grade. They might be punished if they did the right thing. In these past few years, many people have done just that. They've proven that social experiment over and over and over again. I'm not so interested in those people. I'm interested in the Hannah B's, the people who said, F this. Sorry for the language. We should have had a little note that the F-bomb would be dropped, but it was. Screw this. I'm going to do what's right. And there are a lot of us, a lot of people who've done that. So in light of Purim, which just passed, let's talk about the obvious. Esther and Mordecai. I like having an example. You know, we're very heavy on the mothers. This is Ancient Roots Mothering, after all. We are 3 mothers. But the fathers are there too. The men and the women stand up in their own special, courageous ways, and they are heroes. Mordecai refused to bow. What's noteworthy is that Mordecai was the Hannah B. Everybody else was bowing. No one talks about those people, by the way. There's no stories. There's no Megillah written about them. It also says towards the end of Megillat Esther that Mordecai wasn't, it says he was liked, I think, liked and respected or something by most, many of his peers. And what's noteworthy here is that he wasn't liked by many others. And let's stop and think about it realistically for a minute. I mean, this one guy doesn't bow. One guy. Everyone else is following the rules, right? What do you think all of his neighbors and everyone else thought of him? Like, kol hakavod, way to go. You got us all a death sentence over our head by being the only one to do this. No, that's not what they were doing. That's not what he faced. What he faced was, how dare you? The Greta Thunberg famous phrase, right? How dare you? How dare you put us all at risk? All you had to do was play the game. All you had to do was keep your mouth shut, do this little bow. We all did it. Our rabbis gave us permission to do it. It's a Pekuat Nefesh issue. What are you doing? How could you put us all at risk? Do you think he was popular among his peers when he began? Absolutely not. Esther gets kind of roped into this bizarre position, right? Where Mordecai has to say, look, why do you think you end up, a little Jewish girl, an orphan Jewish girl, ends up becoming queen of Persia? How do you think this happened? You think you did it? You think it was you? Hashem is in charge. Hashem put you here. And did it occur to you that perhaps you were put here just for this moment, just for this purpose? And you're going to shirk that right now because you're afraid of being killed? Afraid of being killed. Many of us were afraid to lose our jobs, afraid to not be able to eat in a restaurant, afraid to not be able to go into a grocery store, afraid of what our neighbors would think of us or what the Moatzah would think of us when they got our private, confidential medical history. But we weren't threatened with death, not yet. But Esther did it. Esther was confronted with death. Poor little Jewish girl, she had no one in the world to take her in but Mordecai, who may or may not have actually married her in the end. I mean, it doesn't sound like this ideal situation. But she became queen of Persia, and she was ready to go to her death and give it all up. She went from nothing to everything, fame, fortune, riches, power. And she was ready to give it all up, to go and stand and do what's right. So this is in our DNA. This is who we are. I want to pass this over to Chava to talk about some more modern examples of this in more recent history. If you're there, Chava.
I'm here. Sorry, my video is just being really weird. So I just kind of want to back up for a second before I move on. The reason for me personally, and I feel it's coming around for so many people, the reason we're talking about this right now and hitting on these stories right now is for our children. We have got to pass on the inspiration and the strength from our traditions and our history to our kids, because what do they have? What is holding them up in these crazy times that are, we kind of already know are going to get crazier? They're tied to their computers or their phones, looking at social media. Social media is this huge thing, but what is it? It's air. It's nothing. It's virtual. They have to have roots. They have to have something so strong inside, not outside where we're always looking outside, inside of their neshama, inside of their bodies, their physical feeling, to tie them down and give them roots so they can throw out their branches and their leaves and blossom in these crazy turbulent times. If they can look back and say, oh, Esther was like this, Mordecai was like this, and all these other examples that we're going to go into, they have something to hold on to and to pull strength from. For me, when I personally feel overwhelmed, I sit down with my kids and I start talking about the Maccabees from Hanukkah. I don't know why, but it always comes up for me that these small group of people that had no weapons, no military training, they were farmers, and they stood up to the Greeks. It blows my mind that they had the internal forthwith to do this. But more than that is they had faith, complete and total faith, that throughout history, throughout the stories that their grandparents told them, they know that God is always with them. So let's stand up, let's do this, and God has our back. And I feel like children are so missing that. And this country, mine specifically, this one, Israel, America has its own amazing traditions, and they go back almost 300 years, and people can still pull stories. But I think even that generation, so many have lost it. And in Israel, it's a kind of a brand new country. It has been hammered out of us, our traditions, our stories, completely hammered out of us. They don't teach it in schools. Our grandparents even, and our parents that are here, they kind of went into this thing when they started the country. We're doing modern now. We're not looking back to the old fashioned. We are doing modern. Let's go modern. Well, when you do modern, you kind of forget the past. And so this new generation grew up and they don't have the stories. Where are the stories? And so a holiday comes by. We read the Megillah, we read the Agadah, but does it really have the strength? Are we telling it like as if we were there? Because that's what these kids need, not just another story and eat some matzah and move on. They need to understand what they were up against, those people, and how God stood in front of them and in back of them and gave them, what they needed. And so for me, this whole thing that we're talking about right now is all about inspiration and really pulling our kids in so that they have in the future, when we are no longer here, what to continue with. So personally, I just had to throw that out. I don't know if you guys want to comment on that before I move on. Sorry. Nothing?
I mean, you touched on the Pesach story, which I know we were going to talk about some of these more, the Belsky brothers and all these things, but the Pesach story is so huge. When I sat with my children at last Leila Seder and spoke with them about being slaves in Egypt, my angle on it was not, the rabbis have nailed it. We have to relive it. That means think what it was like, just like I said at the beginning about what it was like for Mordecai.
Right.
Did everyone like him?
No.
No. Okay. And just really thinking what it was like, what they were really up against. We too will be a story in a book one day.
Right.
And except we're living it. So we need, and if we want to know how to act based on how our ancestors in our ancient roots, how our ancient ancestors behaved, then we better get a real understanding of what that looked like. And there is no, dearth of examples. Like we have it in every generation. There's an Amalek in every generation. And so we have examples. But that Pesach story with my kids, I was going, what do you think? I mean, I talked about slavery. How do people walk into slavery? How do people walk into losing autonomy of their bodies, minds, and spirits? Because 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, I sat with my kids and I could not honestly understand how that sort of thing could happen. I read the commentary, you know, Pharaoh set it up like this, everyone's doing it. It's patriotism, you know, you're doing it for others, you're doing it for the society. And I thought, who would do that? Like, who would fall for that? And then last Pesach, obviously we've moved on from that. I won't go into details. I think we're all smart enough to figure that out. Last Pesach, I started thinking about the Levi'im, because the person that Hashem chose to lead us was Moshe. And Moshe was not only a Levi, but he wasn't even living with the tribe of Levi. He was totally separated from the slave mentality of the people who decided to walk into slavery in order to be part of the community. He was in the castle. He was with the king. But I asked my children this question. I have to say, it hung there for a very long time, middle of Leila Seder. I said, what do you think was more difficult? Being a slave in Egypt, or being from the tribe of Levi and watching all of your brothers and sisters walk into slavery and then be stuck there for 210 years? Because I think all of us at this point know what either one or the other feels like firsthand. So yeah, thank you, Chava, for that example. I'll bounce it back to you for some more modern examples.
Okay. So yeah, amazing, amazing. But that's what we have to do. We have to make these things real. We have to give inspiration. And you know, these stories from our Torah and our traditions are amazing. And they're so bountiful, like you said before, that we don't have to walk too far to find our heroes. But sometimes it's nice to step outside of that and find the ones that no one even expected in modern times to be heroes. It could be, I can just give a really quick example. I don't even know what they are, great grandparents, I guess. Before the Shoah, there were signs all over Europe, Russia, that things were getting really bad for the Jews. And my family specifically was in a small village in Russia, and they ran around telling everyone how bad things were kind of looking and the way that things were heading. And everyone told them they were crazy. We are perfectly happy here. We've lived here. They get along with the Jews. Everything's been fine for hundreds of years. What is the problem? Why are you talking like a crazy person? And you're just going to make it worse for us. And they talked and no one was listening. In the end, they left and they went to America. And every single remaining person in that village from my family, my extended family, was murdered. And that was the end of that. So those people are heroes in their own right by warning their brethren, trying to help everyone see with their eyes open what's going on and help them to, let's come together, let's figure out a solution. And if you're not going to do that, we're not waiting around for the graves to be dug for us too. And they left. And for that, I'm here today. And so many of us have those stories. And so, yeah, it's just some people, I don't even know them. They're way generations back, right? But that story remained in my family over and over again. And I have the family tree on our wall, and I can see the names and I can see what lineage went to where, you know? So for me, these are true heroes. And so even if you don't want to look, or you don't have time, or you don't want to open a book or whatever it might be, look inside your own family and you can find someone, probably even quite a few numbers of people in their own way. Like we were said, Rivkah said before, without a cape, they're not, you know, have special powers, but they did something very special and stood up and did what they could in their own time, in their own way. Gilla, do you want to add something? You're on mute.
Got it. So thanks for sharing that, Chava. That's pretty amazing. And I agree with Chava. We have to each go and look in our family trees because we need to find something close to us. It doesn't matter where you hail from. It doesn't matter where your ancestors hailed from in this world. There's a story, and there are stories, and someone in your family was an everyday hero, whether it was a mother who found food for kids when there was hunger or famine, a grandmother who might have, helped people in the village, a grandfather who might have built things or found food. These are all our heroes in our families that we need to go and dig and find. I would like to connect today with some of our first and oldest and most ancient heroes, women, mothers, and they are, for all of us collectively, our family. We can say that we are all descended from them in a way. We share lineage with them. We share a collective unity that we can connect. And as Rivkah mentioned, the Pesach story, I'm going to talk about Shifra and Pua because I feel a great affinity. I identify, I connect with both of them on many levels. Besides being a mother, thank God, and a herbalist, I am a doula. I'm a birth worker. And as a birth worker, I have a whole new level of connection with Shifra and Pua and admiration and respect. So the story is pretty well known. It is a story in the Torah. This is not Midrash, although, it doesn't matter where it's from, but I'm emphasizing the fact that these two women are mentioned by their names in the Torah. And they are given quite an amount of respect by being mentioned actually in our Torah. So the story, everybody knows a little. It's not very long. There's maybe a few psukim, a few lines, and then move on. However, these women are unbelievable heroes, and they're way up there. These two women who were, we are told, were the midwives, the Hebrew midwives, were told by Paro, who ruled Egypt and ruled over everyone, and everyone was scared of him. The only other person to stand up to him that we know of was Moshe. So Moshe's mother, these two midwives did not obey his decree to kill the newborn Jewish babies. And when Paro called them to task on this, they stood up and they answered that the Jewish women are not like the Egyptians, specifically saying the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptians. There are two main commentaries on that and what it means, and both of them are relevant and inspirational to us today. So the first one, most of us hear about it, is that supposedly the Hebrew women, the Hebrews, the Jewish women, gave birth so quickly before the midwife came. And the other one is that there is something called Dina de Malchut, which means the law of the land. And apparently Paro was very aware that even as a Jew, you are supposed to abide by the law of the land. And Yocheved, okay, that's a whole other story. Miriam and Yocheved, or Shifra or Pua, answered saying, we do not need to obey this law because this is not the same law for the Egyptians. So this is not a law of the land. And that is one of the most interesting commentaries and makes absolute sense because essentially it also shows how wise and witty and full of courage these women were. And we're told they feared God. which means in our day, we use the word yira, which is not fear as we know, where you hide in your house and you fear to do anything. They knew that they were doing holy work. To be a midwife or to go against something, to bring life into this world is holy work. They knew they had God on their side. Whether they would live or not is a different story. And heroes, everyday heroes who step out of line to save for the better of others, often know they risk their own lives, but do it so believing that they are doing Hashem's holy work and the right thing to do. So either way, the commentaries are both inspirational to us, because saying that the woman birthed so quickly means that it's in our DNA to have amazing births, to birth quickly. So that's number one, to be inspired. Many times women will tell me, my grandmother, my aunt, my neighbor had a hard birth, therefore I'm destined to. Well, now you have a great, great, great grandmother who is telling us that the Jewish women, they birthed really fast even before the midwives. They did free birth, unassisted, all on their own. So there's one. The other one, that they didn't birth so quickly before the midwives, yet it was the law of the land, was the problem, shows us how important the midwives were back in the day. And even Rashi questions, were there only 2 midwives? And says, for so many people, it doesn't make sense. There obviously were other midwives, but these were the head midwives. Or again, he says, maybe it supports the fact that the woman just gave birth really quickly. Either way, that both of those are inspirational, because knowing that there were 2 midwives, but many more other midwives, shows us what a respected and honorable and common profession this was amongst our ancestors. So that's inspirational as well. The other thing, Rashi mentions Shifra and Pua get their names from Shifra to le chaper, to improve the physical well-being, or to improve how the newborn looks, or their physical well-being. And Pua because of the way she cooed and soothed newborns. Now that sounds really sweet. However, anybody who's given birth or is a birth worker knows that it takes much more than improving the physical appearance of a mother or a newborn and cooing to soothe a newborn to be a midwife or a doula. And I state here in public that I believe Pua was our first ancient ancestor who was a doula. And so we have a lot to take from inspiration. Even if what Rashi says is 100% how it was, that just re-emphasizes the importance of giving support, of soothing a mother, of soothing an infant, of speaking kind, soft words during a birth and after a birth, of empowering our sisters, friends, mothers, daughters, and women. So whatever the actual meaning, they're both good. When it comes to Shifra, it says they were rewarded because they caused the babies to live. The word used, techayun, means you will cause to live. That's huge. I don't know anybody else in the Torah that it's written about that says you caused a generation of babies to live. It's huge. Yet we don't delve deeply into this. Our kids, our daughters are not raised on the magnitude of this. So whether she improved the physical look of a newborn or a mother, or the actual physical shipra, she improved their possibility of living and carrying on for another generation is huge. She did. So birth work midwives are way more than just improving how a mom looks or a baby looks. And a doula is so much more than cooing to a newborn and soothing. It is incumbent on us. We have it resting here and in our hearts with joy to pass this on to the next generation, to share this far and wide. When the Parsha comes round in Shmot, we should sit with our daughters and make a celebration with our friends, with aunts, with sisters. And we should ask these questions. And we should teach about midwives today, about the profession of midwives, about the holy work of birth work, and about how even in today's day, midwifery is so important and such holy work. Birth work is. And it's the kind of tradition that if any of you go and scratch and look into your past, you will likely find a great aunt, a great grandmother, somebody who maybe just helped her neighbors. No matter where you look in the world, Eastern Europe, North Africa, the Middle East, South America, Europe, you're going to find someone. Connect with them, share it with your family. Thank you.
Also, Shifra and Pua, also known as Miriam and Yocheved, did this under penalty of death.
Yes.
You know, it even talks about when Pharaoh calls them in and says, why didn't you kill the boys? Why didn't you do as I commanded? And the Midrash says that Miriam, you know, basically starts to say, like, why would we do that? You know, like, we're not going to kill our own people. And Pharaoh gets so, I mean, he basically orders her death. And Yocheved, her mother, says, hang on, she's just a little girl. She doesn't know what she's saying. It's okay, you know. I mean, how they managed to escape death over and over, but on courage. On courage. And again, we have to think about what must it have been like for two women in this society where they're Levi'im, who aren't slaves, everyone else is slaves. They've got it good, and they're willing to risk even all the Levi'im, even at, you know, like a Mordechai situation, risking all the Jews to stand on what's right and not do what the government commanded them to do. It's pretty amazing. Okay, Chava.
Okay. So another amazing and kind of well-known now story is the Belsky brothers. If anyone has ever read Defiance or seen the movie, the Belsky brothers, again, not people with capes, not even people in leadership roles in any way. Their family was murdered. They said, we need to escape. People came to them looking for food and help. They said, why are you looking for us? What can we help you with? We ourselves are trying to hide out from the Nazis. But they couldn't turn them away because they were Jews. And then more people came and more people came. And they said, well, what do we do? How do we feed these people? He said, add more water to the soup. They didn't know what to do. They didn't have skills. They didn't, you know, grow up being a mayor of a town and know how to solve problems. They were totally, it was thrown on them, but they stepped up because we have to be part of the solution. That's why it's called defiance. Just staying alive is defying all of Hitler and his cronies' word for us now. Kill them, and that was it. Kill them. So to stay alive, however possible that was, which seems impossible, that they stayed in the forest with over 1,000 people. If you can read about this story, it is inspiring in that they were just three brothers doing what, and all the different personalities that went. One was more, you know, let's be peaceful. One was, let's go out and kill them all. One was, you know, and each one brought to the company whatever he could. There were fights, there were arguments, there were separations. They went through so much, but still their whole goal was keep the Jews alive. However we can do it, for however long we can do it. They had no plan. It's just such an amazing story, and not so very long ago in the Shoah. And again, no capes, no special, they didn't even ask for recognition, these brothers. One of them died right after the Holocaust, and the other one came to America, and another one ended up a taxi driver. Like, they just went back to being nobodies, and they never asked for it. But through research, people found out who they were and what they did. And we even know some people who, she's a granddaughter of one of the guys that was in the Belsky group. So they saved a generation of people. I mean, like you're saying, like, how can you even fathom? And they, at that time, of course, would never have thought what they're doing. They just, let's stay alive. That's it. Stay alive, stay alive. So for me, that's a more modern example of heroes that we can draw strength from, by just knowing that they did whatever they could at the moment, without the tools, without the foresight, without anything. They just pushed forward with pure courage. Go ahead.
Gilla, I think you have another example.
You're on mute.
You're muted, Gilla.
One of my favorite history stories, which is also a long time ago, but not biblical, is Yehudit, Judith. And her story was written, I think it was called the Book of Judith, Yehudit, in Hebrew, and then I think Greek, and there's different variations on the story itself. Yehudit was the daughter of Yochanan, the high priest, and this was during the time of the Maccabees. So Yehudit was a widow, and Holofernes and his cronies, thank you, Chava, I love that word, his soldiers, cronies, were essentially sieged the city, and there was no food going in or out, and they were in dire straits. And Yehudit took it upon herself to help the situation. They were out of answers. They were out of solutions. And she was known as a beautiful woman. She was, apparently she was very kind. She did a lot of chesed. She was a wise woman. And she dressed up in her finest. And according to most variations in the stories, she hadn't dressed up in her fine clothes since her husband had passed away. And she had a basket, and she went through the gates. She was able to go through. She made it, they knew that the soldiers, some of them, she spoke to them, and they allowed her through. She went to the camp of Holofernes. So first question, how did they allow her in? She was beautiful. She was a woman. She was also known as being modest. But all of us women, when we know to put on a different hat, we know how to dress up, and we know how to perform. And that's exactly what she did. She dressed up for the biggest act of her life. And she carried a basket. And it says in most of the variations of the stories that she brought old wine. From what I was able to find out, old wine, meaning undiluted wine, very, very strong wine. She brought cheese. As Chava will tell us, she makes her own cheese with herbs of the land of Israel. Back then, cheese would have been curdled with herbs, and who knows what else. It was very salty, and rolls is what we're told. She told the soldiers or the guards that she had come to visit Holofernes. I'm sure they all looked her up and down. She also told them she had a message for him. Being a beautiful woman dressed up, they allowed her in. he was delighted to see her. He was not a very moral man, and he spent a lot of his days drinking and eating and behaving in, not a most respectful way as a general. He was really happy to see her. And she told him that she had come to share secrets she would share with him how he could win. And he said, why would you do that? And she said, we are suffering terribly. And if I give you over how you can conquer us, you can do it mercifully. And he was just taken by her charm. And they had a meal together. There's different variations where she went and she came back, and she, they had a few meals together. Maybe she gained his trust. However, whichever night it was, she made sure that the cheese was very salty. And I don't know what herbs she used, or if she spiked the wine, because she was a noble woman and worldly and wise, and would have had access and knowledge of any such herbs and spices. But she kept feeding him cheese, and when he was thirsty, she gave him the old wine. And when he fell into a stupor, she chopped off his head, and the rest is history. And she is a hero for all of us. Yes, she was a noble woman. However, she took the risk of her life. In fact, any one of us thinking of doing any such act would have entertained the fact that it's likely and possible that I'm not coming back alive. So I believe she did everything in her knowledge and power to make sure that she succeeded in chopping off his head, even if it meant giving up her life. And that is part of the story that should be so inspiring to us. And again, she used supposedly simple methods in a simple way, in a beguiling, sneaky way. But she had it in her. She didn't go out as a warrior. The lesson we can take is that we don't have to be good with a sword. We don't have to slay anyone's head, hopefully. But we all have dragons and ghosts and everyday issues that we need to slay. And hopefully this can give us strength with the things that we are dealing with in today's day. We have it in our DNA. Rivkah.
Chava, do you have another?
I do.
And then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring it right up to present day. Some absolute true heroes. I don't even have names. Can you even imagine? I mean, they're such heroes that the media has wiped out who these people even really were. You have to dig, and I don't have them in front of me. But the doctors and the nurses who took it upon themselves, they knew they were going to lose their license, be sent to jail, et cetera, but they gave saline instead of the new jab. They knew that it was a bioweapon. They knew how dangerous. They knew there were no studies, no science to back it up, and they couldn't put it on themselves like so many thousands of doctors and nurses are still doing until today. But these very few said, I cannot take it and go against the oath that I swore under to become a doctor or a nurse, to only help people and to help them to get in health rather than killing them. And they put the saline in the needle instead of that. And then, of course, people found out and they were sent to jail, lost their license, all kinds of horrible things, were completely vilified in the media and turned into, criminals of the highest. When if you just consider what they put up against and when they went up against, and they knew that the results of what would happen, but they had to do what was right. These people are absolutely heroes in every way. And again, nameless in so many instances, but still heroes, still using the courage, still using wisdom and using science and using common sense to do what's right. And thank God for them. Yeah, so that was my last example.
Okay.
Thank you, Chava.
Really, thank you. The Jewish people are known for being modest, and we're all taught about being modest. Gilla mentioned it about Yehudit. Modest from what exactly? I mean, especially in ancient times, everyone covered their hair, you know, didn't wear revealing clothes in very ancient times. Okay. So what were we so modest from? Is it just about dress? Is that what we're talking about when we say modest, that the Jewish people are modest? We're talking about women's dress? I don't think so. I think what we're talking about is our heroism, the amazing, incredible things that we do, and we're modest about it. Meaning, just like Chava said, nameless, just like the Belsky brothers, they totally unknown, just walked right back into life. Unless you did some digging, you wouldn't know who they even were. So I guess I'll close quickly with asking all of you to think about who there is in your family tree, who's in your family line, in your DNA, on your branch of the tree, like the one behind me. We have these common ancestors in ancient times, but we don't even need to go far back, like Chava said. Who are they in your family? And who are you going to be? My grandparents were spies for the French resistance, La Résistance, in France during the Second World War. And they never spoke about what they did. They didn't come out religious. They came out as completely secular people, immigrated to the United States. But they did some incredible things during that time, as I think all of our families have similar stories to that. They were completely unknown. No one knew their names. No one knew what they did. And there was a family that housed my grandfather, a Christian family, a non-Jewish family, that when my father jumped off a moving train being transported between two concentration camps, death camps, and he ran away and escaped, knocking on people's doors, asking them to feed him or house him or help him. He was a young man. He was, I believe, in his late teens. And every house said, go, go, go. We don't want to be caught. We're not allowed to house you. We're not allowed to give you food. Their humanity, just like the goldfish, had been taken from them. Look what the world has done to you. But one family said yes. And that family put my grandfather in the attic of their barn for over a year and brought him food and hid him and took care of him at their own personal risk to themselves. And because of that, I'm here today and my children are here today. And just like Gilla and Chava said, we all have those stories. So your homework, until next time, is to identify those people in your family tree. What would they do? The Christians have a fun saying, what would Jesus do? Right? What would our ancestors do? What would they do in this situation? What would they do at this time? How can we follow in their holy footsteps? Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next month. We'll bounce it back below.
Right. So now I give my concluding remarks. Thank you on behalf of our live studio audience and our viewers and listeners. We thank Mrs. J. Rivkah Asoulin of the Galilee, Israel, Mrs. Gilla Weiss of Boca Raton, Florida, and Mrs. Chava Dagan of the Northern Negev in the land of Israel. We thank you for another illuminating talk in our monthly series entitled Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles, and Sage. And now I have to do my Rainmaker bit. Please support the work of Chava, Gilla, and Rivkah. Now, how you can do that for each of these remarkable mothers in Israel is to look at their websites, and they will tell you. I just remember off the top of my head that you can have your honey from the Northern Negev community of frontier pioneer Annie Oakley of our times, Mrs. Chava Dagan, and other wonderful services and products you can buy as well from Gilla and Rivkah and Chava. And now for myself. Please support yours truly's work to build our Hebrew Bible-based Fifth Israelite Monarchy Broadcasting Network from Jerusalem, Israel, to honor the God, land, Torah, and people of Israel and all humanity. Click on the links below. We wish you, since it's Wednesday night, a Shabbat Shalom, a happy weekend if you live in a country that has a weekend. Israel does not yet. I hope one day it will. And when we meet in a month, it'll be at the end or after Passover. So for Jewish people, we wish you a happy Passover. Christians, they have Easter. I don't know who else has anything at this time of the year. I know when we have Hanukkah, the Hindus have Diwali Day. Almost all religions have a festival of light, which our sages say goes back to Adam, who introduced the first one when he saw the days got shorter than the days got longer. He was the first one to have a festival of light at that time of the winter solstice. So thank you very much, and we will see you next month. Okay, I'm done with my recorded section. If you ladies want to keep talking with your friends here, you're most welcome to do so.
Thank you.
I'm gonna hand over, everyone can unmute themselves. I have to go now, so I'm gonna hand over hosting with Rivkah. Can I hand it over to you?
Sure.
And your friends and colleagues are welcome to talk to you. Leave meetings, so hand it over to Rivkah. All right, see you soon. Good night.
Good night. Okay. If there's any comments, great. If you want to share your heroes and your family, we love to be inspired. You can unmute yourself, raise your hand if you want. And if not, we'll carry on into the week, marching towards Shabbat. Joyce or RD, thoughts, comments?
Just thank you for the presentation. Sorry, multitasking.
I hear you. We're all doing it. You're very welcome. Enjoy. We'll see you next month. Thank you so much. Gilla and Chava, I miss you ladies.
Miss you both.
Me too.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.